Hey everybody, this is Mark here at Gary's Guitars in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I'm here to talk about strings, primarily acoustic guitar strings, although I want to do a series of these videos talking about all sorts of guitar strings. But this is just going to be the overview and acoustics. Overview, strings are important. Without strings, we can't play the guitar. Let's talk about string gauges, string manufacturers, different types of strings for your guitar. First of all, let's talk about gauges. And to talk about gauges, we'll bring up our first example. The D'Addario is kind of what I call the Coca-Cola of strings. They're the ubiquitous, they're everywhere, and everyone can kind of agree that they're okay. If you're not a big fan of D'Addario, you at least have to agree they're okay. I use a lot of their strings on a lot of my instruments. So, shout out. And plus, here is D'Addario Light Acoustic. It's 12 to 53. Phosphor bronze, this particular set. This is the most standard. D'Addario came up with the phosphor bronze alloy, I believe, and so it's kind of their signature, although they have 80-20 bronze strings as well. We'll get into bronze alloys later. Well, bronze is an alloy, and you can make it a lot of different ways. This is their most popular and the most D'Addario sounding D'Addario. String gauges are important. This is called light string sets, although I like to call them normal because these days, everyone is using 12s, and 13s are called mediums, but you think medium is kind of like the middle of things, so like the not heavy, not light. But actually, in the acoustic world, mediums are kind of heavy. A lot of guitar manufacturers, including Taylor and Martin, engineer their guitars to, and they ship them with 12s on them. Because first of all, it puts less stress on the guitar. It makes it a little easier to play. So when you're trying out the guitar in the store, there's an ease of play there. But it's the new normal for normal. So the 12s. I mentioned Martin. Let's talk about this. This is something that I've come to terms with. The Martin Retro strings. They had a good marketing campaign when they came out, and everyone went a little crazy for them. I got to try them. Some people do use them and stick with them and like them. What's the difference? Why they're so retro? Well, until the late 60s, there were no bronze strings for acoustic guitars. That was something that was introduced. Previous to that, everything was nickel alloy, steel and nickel. So, this here, Martin Retro, is kind of representation of that. Now, you could put a set of electric steel strings on your guitar and that nickel steel strings, and guess what? You would be doing the same thing, I believe. But I don't know what the special thing is. It's a different kind of string for your guitar. So if you like them, that's good for you. Initially, I was like, these sound terrible. These sound like they're not terrible. They're just a little quieter. They're a little their characteristics are a little different. Some people have fallen for them. Good on them. Let's talk about coated strings. So, in general, this is Elixir. They invented the coated string. Their patent has recently run out, and so all the other string companies are coming up with their own coated strings. So, but Elixir is owned by Gore. The people make Gore-Tex, and they figured out there's probably a guitar player there somewhere who said, "Wouldn't it be great if I could cover my strings on a molecularly thin level of coating coating, and therefore I can the strings would last longer and it would avoid corrosion." And so was born Elixir, but so was also born the first premium string. Before that, all strings were like $6 for a set. Every once in a while, I have a funny conversation with someone who comes in the store, and they'll come in with some guitar from the 70s, and they'll go like, I got a broken string, and they'll have one string flopping around. I need a string. And I'll be like, you kind of need all the strings. Those strings are tarnished and stretched out, and there's just no... and they're like, oh, how much does that cost? And I say, $9 for a set of strings, and they go, each? I'm like, no, $9 for all the strings. And they're like, yeah, sure. Because very few things that are so cheap. If you're not used to playing guitar, if you're not a guitarist and you're not used to buying strings, you would think that was an incredible bargain. But all our friends and some of you out there are always trying to like, oh, I'm going to buy my strings in bulk, or I'm going to buy a 3-pack, or I'm going to order them online so I can save $1 on a $7 set of strings. What I'm saying here is go ahead, save $1 if you want, but premium strings are not expensive. A set of elixirs is, I think, 22 now. So, you know, everything's going up. And it's still a great bargain. And you have to change them less, and so therefore, you know, it kind of equals out a bit. I like to say they last. They cost last twice as long. It costs twice as much. Now a little more than twice as much. But if you don't like to change your strings, or if you like the feeling of the coating, they make 2 kinds of coated strings at Elixir: the traditional, what they call polyweb, and a nano web. Speaking of coated strings, D'Addario has also come out with a coated string that people are loving. I have them on my mandolin, and I cannot complain. Mandolin is an instrument I don't play a lot, and therefore I don't change the strings a lot. And therefore, having a long-lasting set of strings on there is good, because if you put a regular set of strings on, you play it for a week, and you put it away for a month, when you get back to them, they'll be noticeably not as good. Another one of our... actually, I'll take a little pause here for a second and talk about something important in strings. And that is what causes strings to corrode. Why do strings die? There's a few reasons, physics-wise. One is there's about 3 things I remember from science class in high school, and this is one of them. Somehow, but I remember it because it keeps coming up in my life. Dissimilar metals corrode where they touch. So corrosion can be caused by 2 metals that are not the same touching. Corrosion is, you can also have oxidation, which is oxygen having an effect on a metal. And those are the 2 factors that contribute to, you know, the degradation of string. And that in being stretched out, what we call stretched out, which is at some point they lose their boinginess. That is a scientific term, boinginess. And so they'll stay in tune not as well. You know, there's just, the string is under tension all that time. And there's a time comes in which, you know, and it's slowly giving more tension away. And there comes a time when it's just stretched out. There's no more stretching to do, and that's, you know, your strings sound noticeably worse there. Now, coated strings like Elixir and those other D'Addario coated, they avoid, well, 2 of the problems. One, you know, corrosion, being the outer layer being coated avoids oxidation, and then they do this thing where they coat the core of the string and then wrap the outside around it, and that keeps the two metals apart from each other a little bit, and that creates a bond against corrosion. However, all strings are doomed eventually. I like to change my strings, and I think I don't change them often. 3 to 6 months is what I tell people. And that's not often. And there are people who change them more often. I just have so many guitars that it's tough. But a new set of strings is a great, inexpensive way to improve any guitar. And switching to a premium set of strings, like, you know, like I said before, there's some other brands of strings I'm not talking about right now, like that are just kind of more premium, cost a little more money. And they should all be tried out. But switching to a more premium string can be a way to upgrade a cheap guitar as well. Let's talk about our friends at John Pierce. There's a portrait of Mr. Pierce on the cover. And he was a guitar teacher, an innovator, an inventor, and a player. So a player, of course. Started, I guess, the first online lessons to speak of, because he did a, before there was an online, in the 80s, he did a PBS show where he taught guitar. And that was cool, I guess. You know, that was the first thing of its type, of just going through a television, talking to people, trying to teach them guitar. And but in his innovations, and he's invented, you know, of course, he started a string brand, and then he invented other accessories for guitars. Made improvements, you know, over other accessories for guitars. He's passed on. His wife continues the company. So they're still packaged in the old style packaging and with the old logo. They're an interesting, nice guitar. The reason I brought these strings here is these are phosphor bronze, and silk. I think they are. Yeah. So silk and steels. First of all, classical strings, which we're not talking about yet today, are wound with silk. That kind of gives them the softness, kind of an imitation of the gut string feel. And those silk and steel strings are meant for acoustic steel string acoustic guitars, where it's kind of halfway between a classical set and a bronze set of strings. Now, silk and bronze is pretty cool because it's a bronze string, but with the silk woven in, it means the tension's a little lower on them, the sound's a little softer, but it puts a lot less tension on the instrument. And it's great for 12 strings, and it's great for other guitars that are kind of like, you know, having a hard time, that you don't want to put 10s on, but you want to go easy on. The one thing I will say about the John Pierce strings is they don't have a long shelf life. I find they die a little sooner than definitely coated strings, but even the regular D'Addario or Ernie Balls. I'm like, it might be time. I didn't talk about Ernie Ball today, but we'll be talking about them in electric strings. So that'll be part 2. For now, that's enough string talk for today. Thanks for watching. Watch all the other videos here on YouTube. And like and subscribe and all that stuff, and we'll talk to you soon.